Noah was born on a rainy Wednesday night in a small town in Ohio. His parents, Kelly and Marcus, were expecting a healthy baby boy, and he was healthy, but something about Noah was different. As a baby, he didn't smile much. He rarely cried. He stared at things for hours, like he was trying to understand a world no one else could see. At first, his parents thought he was just quiet, but when he turned 3 and still wasn't speaking, they began to worry. Doctors told them Noah was autistic. Kelly didn't understand what that meant. Marcus was silent. He had dreamed of teaching his son how to play football, how to fix cars. That night, he sat in the garage for hours, holding back tears. As Noah grew, his world stayed quiet. He loved patterns. He would line up his toy cars in perfect rows and scream if someone moved them. He didn't like hugs. He didn't make eye contact. He made soft humming sounds when he was nervous. But there was something special about him. He could solve puzzles faster than anyone in his class. He remembered details most people forgot. At school, the other children didn't understand him. They called him weird. Some teachers tried their best, but others just wanted him to sit still and stop humming. Noah didn't speak much, but he noticed everything. He saw the way his mother sighed when he made a mess. He felt the way his father grew colder every day. At home, love felt like something he had to earn, but he didn't know how. Noah's 7th birthday came on a sunny Saturday. Most children would be excited, balloons, cake, friends running around, but for Noah, the day felt like any other. His mother didn't decorate the house. His father didn't smile. They gave him a wrapped box and said happy birthday without looking him in the eye. Inside the box was a toy drone. Noah liked how it looked with its small propellers and blinking lights, but he didn't know how to fly it and no one showed him. After a while, he sat alone in the corner, turning the box over in his hands again and again, humming quietly. The cake stayed in the fridge until evening. No candles, no song. Earlier that week, Noah had made small drawings for each member of his family, his parents and his older sister, Emily. He had spent hours with his crayons, carefully choosing colors, making sure every corner was neat. But when he handed the drawings to them that morning, they said, "Thanks," and placed them aside like junk mail. Emily, who was 14, barely spoke to Noah. At school, she pretended not to know him. She hated how other students whispered about her weird brother. At home, she wore headphones to avoid hearing his humming. Later that night, Noah watched a family in a commercial on TV singing around a birthday cake. They were laughing and hugging. He tilted his head and stared at the screen. Why didn't his birthday look like that? He didn't cry. He never did. But his fingers began tapping faster, and he rocked back and forth on the living room rug. Deep inside, a small question formed. Was something wrong with him, or was something wrong with love? One morning, Kelly was in a rush. She had an important meeting at work, and Marcus had already left for his job at the factory. Emily was supposed to watch Noah, but she had a school field trip. Nobody had arranged for someone to care for him. Noah sat quietly at the breakfast table, tapping his spoon against the edge of his bowl. He had cereal but no milk. Kelly glanced at the clock, grabbed her car keys and called over her shoulder, "Noah, stay inside. Mommy will be back soon." She didn't wait for a reply. The door slammed shut. The house was silent. Hours passed. Noah didn't move much. He played with his toy cars, lining them up in color order across the floor. The house grew darker as the sun moved behind the clouds. Still, no one came. He was hungry, but he didn't know how to ask. He didn't know how to make lunch. By the time Kelly came home, it was almost evening. She dropped her bag on the floor and froze. Noah was still sitting in the same spot, his lips dry, his eyes wide but blank. He had not eaten, he had not gone to the bathroom, he had simply waited. Guilt filled her chest, but she quickly pushed it down. "You should have said something," she snapped. "You're not a baby anymore." Noah didn't reply. He didn't understand why it was his fault. That night, while everyone slept, Noah stood by the window. He looked at the stars and whispered the only sentence he had learned to say on his own. "I'm still here." Emily's birthday was coming, and she had been planning a secret party for weeks. She told her parents it would just be a few friends, but what she didn't say was that she had invited nearly 20 classmates. She didn't want Noah there. She was scared he would embarrass her in front of everyone. "Noah can't come," she told her mum firmly. "He'll ruin everything." Kelly hesitated for a moment. "Maybe he can stay in his room," she suggested weakly. Emily folded her arms. I said no. If he's around, people will laugh at me. That Friday evening, the house was full of music and laughter. Teens danced, ate chips and posed for selfies. Emily wore a new dress and smiled brighter than she had in months. No one talked about Noah. It was like he didn't exist. But Noah was upstairs. He could hear the music pounding through the floor. The noise was too loud, too messy. He covered his ears with a pillow, but it didn't help. Lights flashed under his door. He rocked back and forth in the dark, whispering numbers to calm himself. At one point, he quietly opened his door and peeked downstairs. A girl saw him and gasped, "Who's that?" Everyone turned to look. Emily ran up to him and grabbed his arm. "Go back to your room, Noah," she hissed. "Now." He nodded and stepped back without a word. The door closed again. The party went on. But in that one moment, Noah had understood something he couldn't explain. His own sister was ashamed of him. Downstairs, Emily laughed loudly. Upstairs, Noah pressed his forehead to the wall and tried not to feel. At school, most of Noah's teachers didn't understand him. They marked him absent-minded when he stared out the window too long. They gave him poor grades when he didn't write full sentences. They thought he was just being difficult. But one teacher saw something different. Her name was Miss Ray. She taught art class. She was quiet, gentle, and always wore earrings shaped like animals. On Noah's first day in her class, she noticed how he chose his paint colors carefully and never mixed them. He painted in patterns, rows, and soft waves. His brush strokes were slow, focused, almost like he was telling a story without words. While the other kids painted fast and messy, Miss Ray stopped at Noah's desk and knelt beside him. "I like how your colors talk to each other," she said softly. Noah didn't look up, but his hands slowed. He didn't speak, but he heard her. Over the next few weeks, Miss Ray paid attention. She learned that if she gave Noah instructions one step at a time, he followed them perfectly. She realized that when he hummed, it meant he was thinking, not misbehaving. She even gave him a small quiet corner of the room where he could go if he felt overwhelmed. One day, Miss Ray asked the class to paint something that made them feel safe. The other kids drew houses or pets. Noah painted a swirling galaxy with one small boy in the middle, sitting calmly with stars above his head. Miss Ray looked at it for a long time, then she smiled and whispered so only he could hear, "I see you, Noah." And for the first time in a long while, Noah smiled back. Just a little. One evening, Kelly called a family meeting in the living room. Marcus had just returned from work, and Emily sat on the couch scrolling through her phone. Noah stood by the window, quietly tapping his fingers against the glass. "We need to talk about Noah," Callie said with a sigh. "He's getting older, things are getting harder. He's not like other kids." Marcus rubbed his forehead. "We've tried, but he's different. He doesn't fit in." Emily didn't even look up. "He doesn't belong in this house. He ruins everything." Kelly crossed her arms. "Maybe it's time to think about other options." Noah turned slowly, sensing their eyes on him. He didn't understand all their words, but he understood their tone. The room felt heavy, like all the air had gone out. Kelly mentioned a special school far away, one where kids like Noah could live. "A place where he could get help," she said. "A place where we don't have to keep adjusting everything for him," Emily added. Marcus nodded slowly. "Maybe it's for the best." Noah didn't say a word. He sat on the floor and picked up his toy car, rolling it back and forth, but inside he felt something break. They weren't just talking about helping him, they were talking about getting rid of him. The meeting ended. Nobody hugged him, nobody asked how he felt. That night, Noah lay awake, staring at the ceiling. He didn't rock. He didn't hum. For the first time, even his body was quiet. Because now he knew his family was planning to send him away. The next few days felt different. The house was quieter, but not in a peaceful way. It was the kind of silence that comes before a storm. Kelly was on the phone more often, whispering in the kitchen. Marcus avoided looking at Noah, and Emily acted like everything was normal, because for her, it was. Kelly told Noah to start packing. She brought out a small suitcase and placed it in his room. She didn't explain much. She only said it was a nice school with nice people. Noah stared at the suitcase for a long time, then looked at his toy cars. He picked them up, one by one, and placed them inside. He lined them up neatly in the case, all facing the same way. Then he added his favorite book, the one with the pictures of the stars. He didn't pack clothes. No one told him which ones to bring. When Miss Ray asked him about the suitcase the next day, Noah said nothing, but she noticed his eyes looked dimmer, like someone had turned off his light inside. She asked the principal if anything was happening at home, but the principal only shrugged. "Nothing official," he said. That night, while the others were eating dinner, Noah sat on the floor of his room and zipped up the suitcase. He didn't cry, he didn't make a sound, he just sat there, humming quietly. The hum was not like before. It was slower, sadder, like a song that had forgotten its melody. And in that silence, he finally asked himself a question he had never dared to say out loud. If your own family doesn't want you, who will? Saturday morning came with grey skies and cold wind. Kelly dressed quickly and told Noah to do the same. She didn't speak much. Marcus stood by the door, holding his car keys. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept. Emily stayed in her room, pretending not to notice anything. Noah held his small suitcase tightly, his toy cars inside. He didn't know where they were taking him, but he knew it was far. Kelly said it was a special place. She used the word better over and over again. "This will be better for everyone," she kept saying. The car ride was quiet. Noah watched trees blur past the window. He didn't speak. He didn't hum. He just stared, wondering if he would ever see his house again. Marcus turned on the radio, but the voices and music only made the silence inside the car feel louder. After an hour, they arrived at a tall brick building with a black gate. A sign read, "St. Haven's Residential Center for Special Youth." The building looked cold and still. No children played outside. No laughter came from the windows. Kelly stepped out of the car and walked around to Noah's door. She opened it and touched his arm lightly. "Come on, sweetheart." Noah followed. Inside, a woman with red glasses greeted them with a practiced smile. Her voice was too loud, too cheerful. She asked Noah if he was excited. He didn't answer. He just looked around at the pale walls, the strange faces, the hallway that smelled like cleaning spray. Kelly signed some papers, hugged Noah quickly, and walked out. He stood there, suitcase in hand, alone. And in that moment, Noah knew the truth. They hadn't sent him somewhere better. They had sent him away. The woman with red glasses led Noah down a quiet hallway. The lights buzzed softly above them. Every door they passed had a number. Noah stared at each one, counting silently in his head. She stopped in front of a plain white door. "Room 17, she said with a smile. "This will be your new home." Inside, the room was small. A single bed with a grey blanket, a small desk, a chair, a window that didn't open. On the other side of the room was another bed, already made. Someone else lived there. Noah placed his suitcase on the floor and looked at the other boy sitting on the second bed. The boy had curly brown hair and wore headphones. He didn't say hello. He just glanced at Noah and went back to staring at the ceiling. "That's Jesse," the woman said. "He's your roommate. Be kind to each other, okay?" Noah nodded. When she left, the room felt even smaller. Noah slowly unpacked his toy cars and lined them up on the desk like he always did. It made the space feel a little more like his own. Jesse watched him but didn't speak. Later, someone knocked and brought dinner. The food was plain, rice and green beans. Noah picked at it. Jesse didn't eat at all. When the lights went off at 9 p.m. sharp, Noah lay in bed staring at the ceiling. It was too quiet. No familiar sounds, no humming from his sister's room, no creaking floorboards. Just cold silence and the distant echo of a door slamming down the hall. He pulled the blanket over his head and whispered into the darkness, "I'm still here." But this time, no one heard him. Noah didn't sleep much that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw his mother walking away, her back turned, her footsteps fading. He lay still, listening to the hum of the air vent above and the soft creak of the building settling into the night. Around midnight, he heard Jesse's voice. "You him when you're scared." Noah froze. He hadn't realized he was humming. "I used to do that too," Jesse added, his voice calm, "until someone told me to stop." Noah slowly turned toward Jesse's bed. He couldn't see much in the dark, just a shadow, but something about Jesse's voice didn't sound mean. It sounded like someone who understood. "They think we're broken," Jesse said, "but maybe we just hear the world differently." Noah didn't know how to answer, so he said nothing, but in his chest something loosened. It wasn't a full breath yet, but it was close. After a long silence, Jesse spoke again. "They put me in here 2 years ago. My mum didn't want me either. She said I was too much, too loud, too strange." Noah felt his heart ache. He didn't know Jesse's story, but it felt like reading a page from his own book. "You're not alone here," Jessie said softly. "You've got me now." Noah closed his eyes. He didn't smile. But he didn't feel as cold anymore. For the first time since he had arrived, the silence didn't hurt. It was still dark, still lonely. But now, there was a voice in the dark. And that voice gave him hope. The next morning, a loud bell rang through the building. Noah sat up quickly, confused by the sound. Jessie rolled out of bed slowly and stretched. "That's the 7 o'clock bell. Means it's time to get dressed," Jessie said. "You don't want to be late. They don't like that here." Noah got dressed in the plain clothes they had given him. A grey t-shirt, navy pants, and shoes that didn't quite fit. He missed his soft blue hoodie and his socks with stars on them, but he said nothing. In the dining hall, all the kids sat in rows. No one spoke loudly, no one ran. Some rocked quietly in their chairs, some stared at their food. The staff walked up and down the aisles, checking that everyone ate and behaved. A woman with a clipboard walked over to Noah. "You must be the new boy. I'm Miss Tilda. You'll have a full schedule. Therapy, group class, quiet time. We believe in structure here." Noah just nodded. The word structure sounded like a prison. After breakfast, they were taken to a large white room filled with soft chairs and puzzles. It was called the calming space. The walls were empty. The lights were bright. Too bright. Noah covered his eyes for a moment. Jessie leaned in and whispered, "Rule number 1, don't cry. Rule number 2, don't scream. Rule number 3, don't make them mad. Just be quiet. It's easier that way." Noah listened closely. He was good at remembering rules. The rest of the day passed slowly. Therapy felt like answering questions he didn't understand. Group class felt like pretending he was okay. By the end of the day, Noah felt like a ghost in someone else's story. But he followed the rules. Because now, his survival depended on them. After a week at St. Havens, Noah started to memorize the sounds of the building. The morning bell, the squeaky wheels of the lunch cart, the click of Miss Tilda's shoes. But the sound he learnt to love most was Jessie's whisper. "Come on," Jessie said one afternoon during their free hour. "I'll show you something." Noah followed him down a quiet hallway, past a locked supply closet and a flickering light. At the end of the hall was a narrow door that led to the storage basement. Jessie pulled it open and motioned for Noah to come inside. They walked past boxes and cleaning supplies until they reached a space behind a stack of broken chairs. Jessie dropped to the floor and sat cross-legged on a dusty mat. "This is my hiding spot," Jessie said. "When it all gets too loud, I come here. No staff, no bright lights, just quiet." Noah sat beside him. It smelled like old books and wood polish. The silence was soft, not heavy like in his room. He took out one of his toy cars from his pocket and rolled it along the floor. Jessie pulled out a notebook. Inside were sketches, planets, spaceships, stars. "I like space," Jessie said. "It makes sense. Everything has a path, a pattern. No one gets left out." Noah pointed at a small star Jessie had drawn in the corner. "That one's me," Jessie smiled. "It's the smallest, but it still shines." Noah picked up the pencil and, slowly, carefully, drew a second small star next to it. "That's you," Jessie whispered. For the first time in days, Noah smiled. They were just two boys in a dusty hiding spot. But in that quiet moment, they felt like stars. Tiny, but not alone. Every Friday, the kids at St. Havens were allowed visitors. Parents, siblings, or relatives could come between 3 and 4 p.m. The front hall would fill with the sound of voices, hugs, and small gifts wrapped in paper bags. It was the only day some of the children smiled. Jessie didn't get visitors. He stopped expecting anyone a long time ago. But Noah still hoped. That first Friday, he sat near the big window in the front hall, his eyes on the gate outside. He held his suitcase on his lap, thinking maybe his mom would come back. Maybe she had changed her mind. Maybe she missed him. He waited quietly. The minutes passed. Other children ran into the arms of their parents. Some left for the weekend. But the gate stayed closed for Noah. At 3:45, Miss Tilda walked over. "No one's coming for you today," she said like it was no big deal. "Maybe next time." Noah looked at the clock. He counted each tick of the second hand until it hit 4. Then he stood up and walked away, his suitcase still clutched tight in his arms. Back in room 17, Jessie didn't ask what happened. He already knew. "They never come," Jessie said softly, "but the first time is the hardest." Noah didn't cry. Instead, he unpacked the same suitcase he had brought with him. He lined up his toy cars again, one by one, in perfect rows. Then he whispered the same words he always said. "I'm still here." But this time Jesse said them too. "Yeah, we both are." And even though no one came that day, Noah realized he wasn't completely forgotten. Not as long as Jesse stayed. On Wednesday morning, just after breakfast, the fire alarm rang. It was loud, too loud, a piercing screech that filled every hallway and bounced off the walls. The lights above blinked red and white, chairs scraped, feet ran, doors slammed. Some kids covered their ears, others screamed. Noah froze. His body locked up and he dropped his spoon on the floor. The sound was too much. His brain felt like it was shaking. He grabbed his ears and started rocking back and forth under the table. Jesse spotted him and ran back. "Come on," he said, crouching beside Noah. "We have to go, it's just a drill." But Noah couldn't move. His heart pounded in his chest. The flashing lights made it hard to see. The noise was like a storm inside his head. Miss Tilda saw him and rushed over. "What's wrong with him?" she asked sharply. "He's overloaded," Jesse said. "He needs quiet." "We don't have time for this," she snapped, grabbing Noah by the arm. "Don't touch him," Jesse shouted. "He needs a minute." But Miss Tilda didn't listen. She pulled Noah up and forced him to walk. He stumbled, still holding his ears, barely able to breathe. Outside, the cold air hit his face. The sound stopped. But the damage was already done. Noah dropped to his knees on the grass, shaking, tears running down his cheeks for the first time since he arrived. Later, Jesse sat beside him under the tree. "I'm sorry," Noah whispered. "You didn't do anything wrong," Jesse said. And in that moment, Noah finally believed it, just a little. He wasn't bad. He was just someone the world didn't understand yet. A few days after the fire drill, Miss Ray came to visit. She was the only teacher from Noah's old school who had ever truly seen him. She had heard from the principal that Noah had been sent away. She asked for permission to visit, and surprisingly, it was granted. When she walked into the activity room at St. Havens, Noah looked up slowly. His eyes widened. He didn't run to her or speak, but he did something he hadn't done in weeks. He smiled. Miss Ray sat beside him and opened a folder. Inside were fresh sheets of paper and colored pencils. "I thought maybe you'd want to draw again," she said gently. Noah reached for a green pencil first, then blue. His hands moved quickly, smoothly. He drew stars, trees, clouds, a boy standing under the sky. No faces, just shapes and patterns. He added a second boy next to the first. Smaller, curly-haired. "Is that Jesse?" Miss Ray asked. Noah nodded. Miss Ray smiled. "You haven't stopped telling stories. You're just telling them your way." Noah kept drawing. He didn't look up, but he heard every word. He drew a third figure, a woman with earrings shaped like owls. Miss Ray laughed quietly. "That must be me." When it was time for her to leave, she gave Noah the pencils and paper to keep. "I'll come again soon," she promised. After she left, Jesse leaned over and looked at the drawing. "That's me?" he asked, pointing to the smaller figure. Noah nodded again, then picked up the red pencil and added one more star above them both. "Thanks," Jesse whispered. Noah didn't speak. He didn't need to. Because some friendships don't need words, they just need understanding. Noah always carried one small red toy car in his pocket. It was his favorite, the first car his father ever gave him. The paint was chipped at the edges and one of the wheels wobbled, but he kept it close like a treasure. One afternoon during quiet hour, Noah reached into his pocket and it was gone. He stood up quickly, checking the floor, under his chair, inside his shoes. His breathing grew fast. The red car wasn't with his other toys. It wasn't under the bed. It wasn't in his coat pocket either. Jesse noticed something was wrong. "What is it?" he asked. Noah pointed to the empty space in his pocket and held up his hands, shaking his head. "The red car," Jesse guessed. Noah nodded quickly. They both searched for almost an hour, crawling under tables and checking the laundry bins. No one else seemed to care. A staff member told them to sit down and stop crawling on the floor, but Jesse ignored her. Finally, Jesse had an idea. He went to the hiding spot in the basement, just in case, and there, under the mat they had sat on last week, was the red car, dusty but safe. He rushed back to the room and held it out to Noah. "Found it." Noah took it in both hands and hugged it close to his chest. His shoulders relaxed. His humming started again, soft and slow. "Thanks," he whispered. "You're welcome," Jessie said. "I know how it feels to lose something that matters." And in that quiet moment, the red toy car became more than a memory. It became a symbol of something else Noah had found. A friend who always came back. One morning, a new kid arrived at St. Avon's. She was tall and thin, with braids tied into 2 long rows. Her name was Alina, and she didn't talk much. She had a small teddy bear that she carried everywhere, even to meals. When she entered the dining hall for the first time, the other kids stared at her. Some whispered. A few laughed when she sat alone and covered her ears with her hands. The noise was too much for her. Noah noticed right away. He remembered that feeling, being the new one, being scared. Jessie nudged him. "Go sit with her," Jessie whispered. "You'll know what to do." Noah walked over quietly and sat beside her without saying a word. He placed his red toy car on the table between them. Alina looked at it, then at him. She didn't speak either. They just sat, both staring at the small toy. After a few minutes, Alina pulled her teddy bear from her lap and placed it next to the car. The 2 toys sat together, side by side. Noah smiled a little. Alina gave a tiny smile back. After lunch, during free time, Jessie joined them too. The 3 of them sat in the quiet corner of the activity room, playing silently. Noah rolled the car. Alina brushed her bear's ears. Jessie drew stars in his notebook. They didn't need many words. They had each other. And in a place that often felt cold and empty, a small circle of warmth began to grow. 3 quiet kids, sitting close, choosing kindness. That afternoon, Miss Tilda passed by and saw them. "Look at that," she said to another staff member. "The weird ones always find each other." But to Noah, they weren't weird. They were a family. One night, dark clouds rolled across the sky, and thunder shook the walls of St. Havens. Rain slapped against the windows, and flashes of lightning lit up the hallways. The building groaned as wind whistled through the vents. Most of the kids were asleep, but Noah couldn't close his eyes. The storm made his chest feel tight. The sound of thunder reminded him of yelling, loud, sudden, impossible to stop. He sat up in bed, clutching his red toy car to his chest. Jessie stirred and looked over. "Storms bother you too?" Jessie asked quietly. Noah nodded, his eyes wide. "Come on," Jessie said, slipping out of bed. "Let's go to the hiding spot." The 2 boys moved quietly down the hallway. Alina was already there, sitting on the mat with her bear in her lap. She had the same look on her face, tense, worried, trapped. Noah sat beside her. Jessie joined them, pulling a small blanket from behind the chairs. "Let's pretend we're in a spaceship," Jessie whispered. "Outside is space thunder, but in here we're safe. This is mission control." Noah smiled faintly. Alina giggled softly and pulled the blanket over her head. Together, the 3 of them sat under the blanket, their toys between them. They took turns telling quiet stories. Jessie drew stars on a scrap of paper. Noah lined up the cars like a space fleet, and Alina made her bear pretend to steer the ship. Outside, the wind howled. Inside, laughter echoed softly. And in that stormy night, something special happened. The fear didn't win. Because together, they had made a world where fear wasn't allowed. Only friendship. A week after the storm, Alina came back from a therapy session with red eyes. She didn't speak the rest of the day. When Jessie asked what happened, she just shook her head and looked down at her teddy bear. Later that afternoon, during cleaning time, a staff member named Mr. Rayner shouted at her for not moving fast enough. He took her bear and tossed it onto a cart of cleaning supplies. "You can have it back when you behave," he said coldly. Alina didn't cry, but her hands started shaking. She curled into a corner and went silent. Noah saw the whole thing. That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about how Alina had looked, sitting there without her bear. She had never let it out of her sight before. It was more than a toy. It was her comfort. "We need to get it back," he told Jessie. Jessie raised an eyebrow. "They lock the supply closet." Noah held up the paperclip Jessie used for art projects. Jessie grinned. They waited until after lights out. Then they crept down the hall, past the security camera that always blinked but never moved. The supply closet door was stiff, but the paperclip worked. Jessie clicked the handle open slowly. Inside, Noah spotted the teddy bear on the top shelf, next to cleaning rags and gloves. He reached up and carefully pulled it down. They closed the door and tiptoed back to their room. The next morning, Elena found the bear on her bed, her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't say a word. She just walked over to Noah and gave him a long, quiet hug. For someone who didn't speak much, that hug said everything. At St. Havens, rules were everything. No sneaking around, no touching other people's belongings, no being in places you weren't allowed. The kids all knew the rules and the punishment if they broke them. The day after Alina got her bear back, Mr. Rayner found the supply closet unlocked. He stormed down the hall, shouting, demanding to know who had done it. The staff checked the camera feed, but it didn't catch their faces, just two blurry shadows in the dark. Still, someone had to be blamed. Later that day, Miss Tilda entered room 17. "Which one of you did it?" she asked, her arms crossed. Noah sat quietly. Jessie looked at him, then back at Miss Tilda. "It was me," Jessie said. Noah's eyes widened. He tried to speak, to shake his head, but Jessie gave him a tiny nod as if to say, "It's okay." Miss Tilda frowned. "You know that's a serious rule. You'll lose outside time for a week." Jessie just nodded. When the staff left, Noah finally spoke. "Why?" "Because you were scared, and you did it for her," Jessie said. "You shouldn't get in trouble for being kind." Noah sat on the floor, thinking. In his old life, kindness had never been something people noticed. But here, in this strange place with cold walls and heavy doors, it had become the thing that kept them human. That evening, Alina shared part of her sandwich with Jessie. No words, just a quiet thank you and the way she looked at him. Sometimes breaking a rule for the right reason meant more than following all of them. And for Noah, Jessie's quiet bravery became another star in his growing sky. Noah hadn't written anything to his parents since he arrived at St. Havens. He wasn't sure they would read it. He wasn't even sure if they still thought about him. But one afternoon, during free time, Miss Tilda handed out paper and pencils and said the children could write letters to their families. Noah stared at the blank page for a long time. Then, slowly, he began to write. "Dear Mum and Dad, I am okay. My room number is 17. I have a friend named Jessie and a girl named Alina. I like drawing and my red car. Do you miss me? I miss my blue hoodie. Love, Noah." He folded the paper carefully and handed it to Miss Tilda. She sealed it in an envelope and said it would be sent out with the others. Days passed. Then a week. Every afternoon, Noah checked with the front desk staff to see if any letters had come. Nothing. Each time he walked away without a reply, his chest felt heavier, but Jessie noticed. "You wrote from your heart," Jessie said. "That's brave." Noah nodded. He had hoped for just one line, even 2 words, "We're sorry." But the silence spoke louder than any letter. Later that week, Jessie gave Noah a small folded paper. Inside was a hand-drawn note that said, "Dear Noah, if I was your brother, I'd never let you go. From Jessie." Noah held the paper for a long time. He never got a reply from his parents. But he got something better. A message from someone who chose him, even without being family. Noah didn't talk much. Most of the time people spoke to him and he just nodded or looked away. He used his drawings, his toy cars, or small gestures to share what he felt. Words weren't easy. But that started to change. One morning, Alina was having a hard day. She sat under the table during group time, clutching her bear and refusing to come out. The staff got annoyed. Miss Tilda sighed loudly and told her to stop being difficult. Noah watched quietly. Then, for the first time in weeks, he stood up. He walked across the room, bent down beside Alina, and gently touched her shoulder. "It's okay," he said softly. "You don't have to come out. I'll sit here too." Everyone froze. Miss Tilda blinked, surprised. Jessie turned in his seat. He had never heard Noah speak first without being spoken to. Alina looked up. Her eyes were wide, but she nodded. And then, without a word, Noah sat beside her under the table. They stayed there for a while, side by side, not speaking. Later, Jessie clapped him on the shoulder. "You did that, with your voice." Noah smiled a little. He didn't feel like a different person. He still liked quiet, still liked his patterns and drawings, but for the first time his words had done something powerful. They had helped someone. That night, Noah took out his red toy car and placed it beside Alina's bear on the floor. Then he whispered to himself, "I can speak when it matters." And that, to him, was enough. The next visitor day came quickly. The halls were filled with buzz again, staff making sure the rooms were tidy, some kids wearing their best clothes, others practicing what they wanted to say. Jesse and Alina didn't expect anyone, but Noah. Noah hoped again. He sat by the big front window with his small suitcase beside him, just like before. Inside were his drawings, his red toy car, and the note Jesse gave him. He had placed a sticker on the suitcase that said, "Home?" Minutes passed. Then an hour. The gate stayed shut. Miss Tilda walked by and glanced at the empty space beside Noah. "No one's coming today," she said flatly, and kept walking. Noah didn't move. He kept staring at the gate, hoping something might change. But nothing did. After everyone had gone back to their rooms, Noah sat alone for a while longer. Jesse came and sat beside him. Alina followed, hugging her bear. They didn't say anything. Then Jesse reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded paper. On it was a drawing, 3 stick figures holding hands under a big star. Above them were the words, "We're your real family now." Noah looked at it, his eyes soft. Then he picked up his pencil and wrote one word under the picture. Forever. That night, back in room 17, he placed the paper on the wall above his bed. It wasn't a letter from home, but it felt more real than anything he had ever received. Sometimes the people who were supposed to love you don't. But sometimes the ones who do find you anyway. It was a normal morning until it wasn't. During group therapy, a new staff member named Mr. Callan was leading the session. He spoke too loud, moved too fast, and didn't like silence. He didn't know how to read the room, and he didn't understand Jesse at all. When Jesse didn't answer a question right away, Mr. Callan raised his voice. "Stop staring at the floor and talk," he snapped. Jesse froze. His hands began to twitch, his breathing changed. Noah saw the signs. Alina did too. Jesse was starting to panic. Mr. Callan slammed a folder on the table. "You kids think you can ignore everyone. This is not how the world works." That's when Jesse stood up and screamed. It wasn't loud, but it was full of everything. Fear, anger, pain. Then he grabbed a chair and threw it across the room. Alina gasped and covered her ears. Noah didn't move. He just watched Jesse collapse onto the floor, covering his face with both hands. Staff rushed in. 2 of them held Jesse by the arms and pulled him out of the room. He didn't fight. He just cried softly, head down. Noah sat still, heart pounding. After class, he sneaked down the hall and waited by the quiet room where they put kids to calm down. Through the glass window, he saw Jesse sitting on the floor, knees pulled to his chest. He placed his hand on the window. Jesse didn't look up, but he raised one hand in return and placed it on the glass too. They didn't need to speak. Noah understood. Even strong stars flicker sometimes. And friends, they shine for each other, especially in the dark. The day after Jesse's meltdown, Miss Ray came to visit again. She had heard what happened through another staff member who cared enough to speak up. When she walked into the activity room and saw Noah sitting alone, she went straight to him. "Where's Jesse?" she asked. "Quiet room," Noah said softly. Miss Ray frowned. "Again?" Noah nodded. Miss Ray didn't speak for a moment. Then she pulled a notebook from her bag and tore out a clean sheet of paper. "Do you want to help me write something important?" she asked. Noah looked up. "A letter, a complaint, about how some kids are treated here. I think it's time someone listened." Noah's hands shook a little as he picked up a pencil. He wasn't used to writing more than a few words, but this was different. He wanted to help. Together, they wrote, "Dear people in charge, we are not bad, we are not broken, we are trying. Some of your staff are kind, others hurt us. Please listen, please see us. We matter. From the kids of St. Havens." Miss Ray folded the letter and promised she would send it to the district office. Later that evening, Jesse returned to room 17. His eyes were tired, but when Noah handed him a copy of the letter, he smiled. "You wrote this?" "We all did," Noah said. And Jesse nodded. Maybe things wouldn't change overnight, but for the first time, they had done something brave. Together, they had spoken the truth. And the truth, even written in pencil, could still shake the world. 1 week after the letter was sent, something strange happened. A woman in a dark suit arrived at St. Havens. She didn't wear a staff badge. She had a clipboard, a calm face, and eyes that watched everything. She asked questions, lots of them. She walked the halls. She sat in on group sessions without speaking. Her name was Miss Dorsey, and she said she worked for the state. She called kids into her office one by one. When it was Noah's turn, he sat in the big chair and held his red toy car in his lap. She didn't rush him. She didn't speak over him. She waited. "Did you write the letter?" she asked gently. Noah nodded. Miss Dorsey smiled just a little. "That letter made it to my desk. It made a lot of people stop and pay attention." Noah didn't know what to say, so he simply whispered, "Thank you for listening." When Jessie came out of the room, he looked hopeful. Even Alina spoke a little during her turn, just enough to say how she missed her old school, how she didn't want to be afraid every day. Later that week, several staff members were removed, including Mr. Callan. New faces arrived, gentler ones. Miss Ray was offered a part-time teaching spot, and she accepted. Miss Dorsey promised to keep checking in to make sure no one was forgotten again. Noah didn't smile wide, but inside, something felt different. He had written a letter with trembling hands, and now people were paying attention. He wasn't invisible anymore. He was a voice. A small one, but loud enough to be heard. 2 weeks later, Noah was in the art room with Jessie and Alina. Miss Ray had taught them how to mix paints and create textures. Noah painted 2 stars and a small boy in the middle, holding a red car. It felt peaceful. Then the front desk called over the loudspeaker. "Noah Harper, you have a visitor. Please come to the front hall." Noah froze. He hadn't expected anyone. His hands trembled as he put down his brush. Jessie and Alina looked at him with wide eyes. "Go," Jessie said gently. "We'll wait here." Noah walked slowly to the front. His red toy car was in his pocket, like always. In the waiting area stood Kelly, his mother. She looked nervous. Her eyes were tired. She held a paper bag with a sandwich and a juice box. "Hi, Noah," she said softly. "You look taller." Noah didn't reply. He looked at the bag, then back at her face. "I should have come sooner," she said. "I thought I was doing the right thing, but I was wrong. I just didn't know how to help you." He stood still. She handed him the bag. "I brought your blue hoodie. I found it in your closet." He took the bag and peeked inside. His hoodie was there, soft, folded, familiar. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away," Kelly said, eyes filling with tears. "But I wanted you to know I'm sorry, and I miss you." Noah looked at her for a long time. Then, slowly, he pulled a drawing Jessie had made from his pocket, the one with the stars and the word forever. He didn't give it to her, but he showed it to her. "This is my family now," he said softly. Then he turned and walked away. News about the letter and the changes at St. Havens spread further than anyone expected. A local newspaper ran a small article titled, "Quiet Voices, Loud Message. Children at St. Havens Speak Up." The reporter had spoken to Miss Ray and even included a few quotes, anonymous but honest. The article said something simple. These children weren't problems to fix. They were people who needed to be understood. One day, a woman with a camera came to the center. She was from a TV station. She wanted to make a short story about how the kids at St. Havens helped change their school. Ms. Dorsey agreed, under one condition: the kids had to be treated with respect. They asked Jessie to speak on camera, but he shook his head. "Ask Noah," he said. "It started with him." Noah didn't want to. The camera scared him, but Jessie held his hand and said, "Just say what's true." So Noah stood in front of the camera, his red car in one hand, the other holding onto Jessie's sleeve. He spoke slowly but clearly. "We are not broken. We are not bad. We just need people to understand us. I didn't have a voice before, but now I do, and it's mine." The reporter smiled. Jessie gave him a quiet thumbs up. That evening, the kids gathered in the common room to watch the short news clip. When Noah's face appeared on the screen, everyone clapped softly. Even Alina whispered, "That's my friend." Noah didn't feel proud. He felt real. And for the first time, the world had seen him not just as a boy with autism, but as a person who mattered. The seasons began to change. The trees outside St. Havens turned orange and gold. Leaves floated past the windows like slow falling feathers. With each passing day, things inside the center felt lighter, brighter, kinder. One morning, Miss Ray entered room 17 with a smile and an envelope. "Noah," she said, "you've been approved for a new placement, a foster home, a real one, with a family that asked for someone just like you." Noah blinked. He didn't understand at first. They know about your autism and they want you exactly as you are, Miss Ray explained. Noah looked at Jessie, then Alina. The thought of leaving made his chest tighten. Jessie smiled sadly. You deserve a home. Alina gave him her teddy bear's extra ribbon. For your suitcase, she said quietly. Noah started packing, not just his clothes, but his drawings, Jessie's notes, Alina's ribbon, the red toy car, of course. Everything that reminded him of who he had become inside these walls. Before he left, he taped one of his drawings to the wall of room 17. It showed 3 stars, bright, close together, with their names underneath: Jessie, Alina, Noah. This room saved me, he whispered to himself. Jessie walked him to the front door. They didn't hug. They didn't cry. But Jessie handed him a folded paper. If it gets lonely, read this. Noah nodded. Then, with his small suitcase rolling behind him, he stepped through the doors of St. Havens for the last time. Outside, a woman waited with open arms and a warm smile. And this time, Noah wasn't being sent away. He was being welcomed. The house was small, with flowers by the window and a porch that creaked when you stepped on it. It didn't look fancy, but to Noah, it looked like peace. The woman who met him at the car was named Rachel. She had kind eyes and spoke slowly, never rushing her words. She crouched down to Noah's level and said, "You don't have to be anyone but yourself here." Inside the house, a room waited for him, painted in soft blue, with a bookshelf, a desk, and a drawer already full of colored pencils. On the bed was a soft blue hoodie, folded just right, not his old one, but almost the same. "I heard you liked this color," Rachel said with a smile. Noah didn't speak right away. He walked around the room, touched the desk, opened the drawer, and carefully placed his red toy car inside on top of his new sketch pad. That evening, Rachel made pasta. She didn't ask too many questions. She just let him sit quietly while she played soft music in the background. The lights were dim, the air smelled like garlic, and nobody told him to stop humming. Later, in his new bed, Noah unfolded the letter Jessie had given him. "Dear Noah, this isn't goodbye. Stars don't stop shining just because they're far apart. Keep drawing, keep being you. I'll always be your brother. Jessie." Noah held the letter to his chest, and for the first time in a long time he felt calm. He had been rejected. He had been forgotten. But he had also been chosen, found, and understood. And now, at last, he wasn't just a boy with autism. He was Noah, and he was home. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.